The 1993 Gi Joe Starfighter was the only spaceship released in the Gi Joe Star Brigade toy line. As a military toy line, starting in 1982, Gi Joe expanded into a lot of different territories. A fairly realistic space shuttle was released for the toy line during its heyday and then reissued later. By the time Star Brigade came around and the entire Joe team was ready to go to space, we didn't get a lot of spacecraft, and that never made any sense to me. The Starfighter is actually a reissue of the 1988 Cobra Stellar Stiletto, so it is a spacecraft, but it's a one-man craft for an entire army of guys in space. Here we have the Starfighter in its launch and landing position, along with its pilot Sci-Fi standing alongside. Now, Sci-Fi is a great name for a character in a space line, and Sci-Fi is a classic G.I. Joe, being released for the first time in 1986, and again in 1991. But why is the Laser Trooper the pilot of the spacecraft? Sci-Fi version 3 is a pretty nice paint scheme on a pretty decent looking mold. It feels fairly astronaut-esque. I'm not real wild about this helmet for a space pilot. It's okay for a terrestrial laser fighter. But overall, the suit looks pretty decent, and they probably could have used this outfit for other characters for Star Brigade. I previously did a video on my channel about the different versions of Payload. Payload is the Gi Joe Astronaut. He's a better pilot. I think Sci-Fi should have been reissued in a couple different colors on single card, while Payload was released once as a pilot. It's odd that they switched roles there, and Payload was released a dozen times like he was a basic trooper, and Sci-Fi became the pilot of a spacecraft. I've always thought Sci-Fi looked kind of like Agent Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks. He's got some nice detailing on this chest plate and some really good texturing throughout his suit. Some people have pointed out that this figure looks a lot like Ace from the Sunbow cartoon, and I do kind of see that, and so that's one of the reasons why I feel like this body makes a pretty good space pilot or space figure. He's got his little knife detail there. I guess you get in a lot of knife fights in outer space. But overall, he's a pretty nice looking figure. The colors are decent, although he doesn't really match the ship at all. It would be kind of nice if this was the same blue as on his ship. He does come with a helmet. Like I said, this helmet, and this is a problem I have with a lot of Star Brigade guys, it's not sealed. And I can imagine that it seals around his face or his neck, but I like it better when they actually give you helmets that, like, clip on. There's a General Hawk figure that they use for some of the Star Brigade guys, and I like that uniform and helmet better. He also comes with his laser pistol. It's a nice sculpt. It becomes very evident that this figure is a reissue and missing some of his equipment when you see there's a spot for a hose here and here, but he has no backpack for anything to connect to. Even if they gave him a cord that somehow connected the two of them, so you could imagine the sight worked with the gun or something, that would have made him feel more complete. So the Gi Joe Starfighter is a reissued Cobra vehicle, and it's been updated because the 90s toys all needed a gimmick. We've added a spring-loaded missile launcher to the bottom here. It rotates, it can kind of go in any direction. It comes off very easy. This accessory was actually molded and used on both vehicles that were released in this Star Brigade line. There's a Cobra Invader, which was also a reissued toy, and it came with the same missile launcher and missiles just in different colors. So you can remove the missiles from the bottom pegs, put them in the missile launcher, and fire them. Oh no. Oh no. Oh good. Whew. For a second there I thought I had a defective missile launcher. That was going to be disappointing. It makes a funny click there. It makes it seem like it's not going to take off. We've got an opening cockpit, which has a little bit of sculpted detail in there, and it's pretty easy to get your figure inside. You could tuck his laser pistol in there, but he can't hold it in his hand. I do like that they tinted the glass. I think that looks pretty good. And overall, the white and blue color scheme with these United States stickers feels very spacey and G.I. Joe. By 1993, I was out of G.I. Joe. I would see these figures on pegs, because I still checked out the toy aisle, even though I wasn't really actively buying stuff. I had very few figures from this era. And the space theme didn't really appeal to me, but I could totally see how it would appeal to kids in general. And I like the Star Brigade stuff a lot more looking back as an adult now, just looking at them as fun toys compared to, like, well, these are G.I. Joes, and they need to be just like the G.I. Joes I was buying in 1986 and 1987. I can see it and enjoy the space theme. Of course, Hasbro was trying to compete with the Kenner Star Wars line, and they wanted to have their own space products. And it's not a bad spaceship, but I do have some complaints. I have never liked that the stiletto takes off and lands on its boosters like a 1950s rocket. It's just ridiculous. Coming in for a landing. Oh, we gotta get going. Oh, climb in. My actual biggest complaint with this toy I had as a kid with the Stellar Stiletto. The first time I saw it, a friend of mine had it, and I swore he must have lost some parts to it. What is the deal with these big exposed engine areas? It looks like there should be a whole cover for this, because G.I. Joe was known for having removable engine covers and things like that. This big old exposed engine thing and all these areas on the side, they just feel like they should have had covers. And it's sort of the beginning of the G.I. Joe vehicles starting to get cheaper and cheaper. The vehicle's kind of all one piece of plastic with no paint apps. They only get a little bit of color in it through a few details on the back. It does have the rubber nose cone for safety, and that looks pretty good. But I just feel like this should have had a little bit more detail to it with covered panels. The Gi Joe Starfighter is an overall decent vehicle. It's a small price point, compact vehicle. Hasbro was definitely getting a lot of mileage out of this entire toy with having the only item on it that was newly sculpted being the missile launcher and the missiles, and they used those on another vehicle in the same year. The Starfighter wouldn't see a reissue in 1994, despite the fact that Star Brigade continued on. Sci-Fi would get a fourth and final figure in 94 that reused this head, but had a whole new body and was very bizarre. Hasbro kind of pulled out all the stops on that 1994 line with some of the most bizarre and interesting space-themed characters to come from the line, and Sci-Fi was no exception. In the comments down below, let me know what you think of the Starfighter. Is this a hard pass? Do you think it's okay that G.I. Joe had a space division? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching this super exciting, outrageous toy review. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos.